Alright guys, well I just grouted up the last line in the house, and boy was that a lot of hard work. I've done a lot of tile and grouting over the years, but I've never grouted stress cuts that were that deep. These were like an inch, inch and a quarter deep, so it was really difficult to get the grout down in there, but I wanted to use a sanded grout because I think it's more durable. It's just what I like to use. I like the look of it better. And since our concrete floors are going to be our finished floors, all we're going to do now is get them diamond ground, and then they will have an epoxy finish over, so you'll be able to see that. So that's the look I wanted. That's why I chose the sanded grout. Our stress cuts are little over an 1/8 inch, so we're right there at the bottom of what you can typically use a sanded grout for. But now that we're done, I'll go through the things that I use to do this, and it's very minimal. So we'll just I'll just show you. The grout I used was this poly blend. It's a sanded grout, joints from 1/8 to 1/2 inch, and it's a nice grout. It worked really well. There's a lot of different colors you can get, pre-mixed colors. We got this is a charcoal. We wanted a darker grout so that it would really make those 4x4 squares stand out and give it some definition. I think you guys are going to be pretty excited about the finished product once this is done. All I had 3 buckets. So in one bucket, I'd fill halfway with water. Had my sponge. This sponge made it through the whole project, believe it or not. So I'd fill that with halfway with water with my sponge in it. I had another bucket with my tools. So this is the float that I like to use. You can see that I wore that thing down pretty good on the concrete. So this one's pretty much going to be time to throw away. Good. And then I keep a small scraper and fill this halfway with water, and then I keep those tools in there so they always stay wet. But I wanted to be 100% positive that I got this grout all the way to the bottom, so I would fill the joints, and then I would take this, and all this is a starter strip, and it fit down in there pretty good. There was a little space on each side, but then I could pack that grout all the way down into the bottom of that joint. And for the most part, the grout was already down there, but there were spots where I was able to push it down in there, and then I would go back and I would refill the joints. So that worked pretty good. So that's literally the tools I used. I used this Cool Whip little container to mix my grout in. You don't want to mix too much grout at a time. This concrete is really dry, so it really sucks up the moisture fast. So your working time on this grout, it is not that long. So I could do about 16 linear feet of joints before the grout would just get too hard. So I use this as my container, and it worked pretty good. And then I just used my DeWalt electric drill with a little mixer to mix the grout up. And then this, I would just have water in it, so when I wasn't using this, I could just set this in there with the drill so it didn't dry out. But that's it, guys. That's all I used. And for anybody that was wondering, why I didn't use one of those grouting caulk guns, I've tried those, and I have one, and it works good on bigger joints, but on these smaller joints that are so deep, you would have to mix the grout wetter than what I want for it to flow out of there and get all the way down in there. It just doesn't work on something like this. At least for me, it doesn't. I mean, I think it works great for bigger grout joints, so you can have a bigger opening at the end of your caulking gun, but it did not work in this way, so I just did it the old-fashioned way. All right, so let's check out some of the action. The first thing you need to do if you're going to grout your relief cuts is you need to get them all clean. So we just used a piece of wire in our shop vac, and even though we've cleaned these cracks multiple times, we wanted to make sure that they were 100% free of debris. I'm sure some of you are like me when you think about doing a project, you have it in your head how long you think it's going to take, and then this was one of those projects that took way longer than what I was hoping, but I think the end results will be amazing. But it was definitely more of a mental challenge than anything. Within the first 5 minutes of starting a project like this, you're going to know whether it's not going to be any fun or you're going to enjoy it. And obviously, this is one of those ones that I knew I wasn't going to enjoy. So instead of looking at the project as a whole, I broke this down into smaller tasks. So I would just say, all right, I'm going to grout this relief cut all the way across. And it just mentally, it makes it easier. So maybe next time when you're doing a project where you feel like that, just try to break it down into smaller segments, and I think you'll be surprised once you get going that you'll be able to get through it, and at the end you won't feel like it was that bad. Alright guys, so grouting tile is a little bit different than grouting these relief cuts, and the only reason is because these cuts are so deep. I feel like I'm doing a good job, but to make sure I'm getting the grout all the way to the bottom of the cut, which is important for the longevity of the grout, I'm using this. Once I initially put all the grout in there, I'll go through and just make sure it's all the way pressed down with this. This is just a thin, actually it's a starter strip for Rosetta Stone. It just worked perfect. I can slide it in there, make sure it's packed down, and then I go over and add more grout, and it works really good. So this is a little bit more time consuming just because I want to make sure that this whole cut is filled, but we're a little over half done, and hopefully I can get a good majority of this done the rest of the day. So we'll see, but I'm just pressing it in with this, packing it down into the hole or into the cut with this, and then going back over and making sure it's filled, wiping it. And I don't have to get this super clean because I'm going to have this diamond ground when I'm done. So you're probably wondering why I'm wiping it so fast. Is this concrete is less than 4% moisture, and that was tested, I don't know, months ago. So it's really drying this out pretty fast. I have no problem once I do a 4-foot section going back and wiping the other section with no problem. So that's what's working for me, and it's going pretty smooth actually. I really appreciate you guys watching. If you guys have any questions about this, leave them in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them. I think this is going to last. I know there's going to be people out there that say you shouldn't grout concrete, but a lot of decorative concrete gets grout in it, and it comes down to a couple things. What is your base like underneath your slab? Is it good and solid where that slab is going to stay where it's at? Is it got good drainage so there's not going to be water underneath it? This is a controlled climate in there, so I have heated floors. There's not going to be a lot of temperature change in this slab where it's going to expand and contract a lot. All these cuts, they're not expansion joints, they are relief cuts. They were cut the day after the concrete was poured to allow the concrete to crack where we wanted it to. And these, I've made 4x4 squares at an angle. You can see down in some of the cracks that the concrete had cracked there where it had shrunk while it was drying. But this slab is, well, it's over 1.5 years old now. It's gone through 2 winters, and it is held up really nicely. There's no visible cracks anywhere but in the relief cuts. So this concrete is cured, so I feel like it's going to last. And if it doesn't, I will definitely share that with you. We'll do updates on this as time goes by, so you guys can make a better decision for your project. But we appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, do us a favor, hit it, share us with your friends, and we will catch you on the next video.